Hello, I'm continuing my reviews on the Prophecy series with The Prophecy Forsaken. Now, this is the fifth and final film of the Prophecy franchise. Now, this movie was shot back-to-back with The Prophecy Uprising, and it was released straight to DVD in 2005, only a few months after Uprising was released. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. This is easily my least favorite in the franchise. There's not a whole lot of good that I can say about this movie. At the same time, there's not really a whole lot of bad I can say either. For me, this movie really is the definition of mediocre, and I've said before, sometimes mediocre is the worst thing a movie can be. Like, the worst thing a movie can be is forgettable. And that's exactly what Prophecy Forsaken is. Now, the plot of Forsaken is it picks up where the previous film left off. Allison is still in possession of the Lexicon, which is a missing chapter from the Book of Revelations, and it contains the name of the child who will be the Antichrist, the child who will initiate Armageddon. So, now a group of rogue angels led by an angel named Stark, played by Tony Todd, are going after her. They want to get their hands on the Lexicon. They claim so they could prevent Armageddon, but you realize that it's for selfish reasons. And they enlist the help of a human assassin played by Jason Scott Lee to go after her, but he ultimately turns against them and tries to help her. And she ends up seeking help from Lucifer himself, who actually wants Armageddon, because if Armageddon happens, then he'll be able to snatch up all the souls that aren't saved by God. And that was probably my biggest issue with The Prophecy Forsaken, is the message of the film was kind of fucked up, because the main villains are trying to prevent Armageddon. Yeah, they're doing it for selfish reasons, but they're still trying to prevent it. And then you have the lead character, the one you're supposed to root for, actually trying to stop the angels from stopping Armageddon. Yes, I understand that in the Book of Revelations, it says that the world will end by God's hands, and the movie's playing on the idea that the end of the world is actually something that God wants, and the main character is a very religious woman, so whatever God wants, she would want. And the movie is playing on the idea, and this is something that a lot of Christians believe, is that when we die, we don't immediately go to heaven. Instead, nobody will go to heaven until Judgment Day, when God will judge both the living and the dead. So basically in the movie you realize that the reason Stark and the other evil angels are trying to prevent Armageddon is not because they actually care about humankind, but because if Armageddon doesn't happen, no human soul will ever get to heaven. But to me that still doesn't make it any less fucked up. I mean, in the first few Prophecy movies you saw the main characters trying to prevent the end of the world, and here you have the main character trying to stop people who are actively trying to stop the end of the world. Granted, this is where you start to get into sort of a theological debate, because, again, that is something that a lot of Christians do believe, that the only way humans will ever get to heaven is if Judgment Day happens. And a big problem with the movie is you don't get that debate in the film, and I think that debate should have been in the film. Allison's just like, well, it's what God wants, so I'm just gonna let the Antichrist eventually end my entire species. Now, if the film was more well-written or more entertaining, I would probably give some of this a pass. I understand that at the end of the day, this is just a cheap direct-to-DVD horror film. I don't think the filmmakers were really intending it to be taken that seriously. To me, this would have made a far more compelling film. Allison, she has the Lexicon, which has the name of the Antichrist in it, and the evil angels want to destroy the Antichrist, and at first Allison is on their side, but then when she meets the little boy who will become the Antichrist, she's just like, this is an innocent little boy. He's not the Antichrist yet, and she starts to think maybe there's a way we could prevent him from becoming the Antichrist instead of killing him. And it could have been a film that asks the question, can a person defy the destiny that God or the devil has laid out for them? Again, that's just my opinion, and I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, of course you would think that's a better story idea. You came up with it. But you know what? The movie we got is not very good, at least not in my opinion. I will say this about the movie, Tony Todd is excellent as the villain Stark. But Tony Todd, of course, is a great actor, and he does elevate it a little bit, but only a little bit. So, that concludes my reviews on the Prophecy series. Now, tomorrow's Halloween, and I do have a video planned for tomorrow, provided I can actually get done editing it by tomorrow. Now, this is not the end of horror month. It won't be till next week, but I am planning on doing a retrospective on the Hellraiser franchise, and I'm hoping to do it with my friend Bill, and hopefully a few other people, but that's purely dependent on whether or not I can get the people together for it.